Welcome everybody to this General Microsoft 365 Development Special Interest Group. This is the bi-weekly sync. It is October 1st. It is the second quarter of our Microsoft fiscal years, or the last quarter of the calendar year. So we're closing into the holiday season as well, which is quite surprising. Time flies when you're having fun. Now, today we'll have quite a lot of actually topics to go through, and we will run through or try to do a summary of all of the open source and community projects again in 15 minutes, and then after the 15 minutes, well, including hopefully including the sample summary, and also including the together mode picture, and then hopefully that in 15 minutes or so, and that will leave 15 minutes for Beth and Pawan and Kislan to go through different demos today. So, and that's basically our objective for all of these calls also in the future. Well, this bi-weekly calls on Thursdays, so we'll always have 3 demos, and the first 15 minutes is then for the news and updates, and that's so that you know as an attendee what is the basic structure, so you know if you need to join, let's say slightly late, you know when the demo spot starts. Now let's actually get moving on the call. So quick recap, obviously, on the opportunities to participate in the community. Please reach out if you want to volunteer to do a demo. We love community demos and real life demos, something what you built or something what you can show. Doesn't have to be open source necessarily, but explaining the structures, explaining scenarios is always good. Now on the other assets and URLs, not going to spend too much time on this one either, but you probably are aware of all of the different assets and URLs what we have. If you have any questions related on the different URLs and access points and all of that, ask them, please use the chat. We have a lot of people in the helping with the chat questions in these calls as well. And in general, if you're like, well, too many URLs to remember, please go to the AKMS M365 PnP and that URL, and then from there you can actually find all of the information what's available. So AKMS M365 PnP. And please follow up on all of the stuff in Twitter. Quick recap on the Microsoft Teams samples. So just a reminder for everybody, we have AKMS Teams samples. It's a great location to find Microsoft Teams development samples. And these are, some of them are simple samples, some of them are more complex samples, and some of them are Microsoft Teams app templates. So you can find from one location all what you needed to get started on the implementation of extensibility for Microsoft Teams. Now, we'll come back on the latest samples in a second. I think David is on the call to do a quick recap on what's happening with a PnP Sharing is Caring initiative.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vesa. So Sharing is Caring initiative is here to provide guidance for those that are either new in the community and looking for some guidance on how to consume some of the samples and initiatives within PnP, or if you're been around for a while and you'd like to contribute, but the barrier for entry is a little frustrating to you. We know GitHub can be a little scary. It's all open source. There's a lot of foreign terms and buttons, and you're not sure how to navigate those waters. Sharing is Caring provides live, hands-on, fully free of charge sessions where we will walk you through together how to contribute, how to consume, how to take advantage of all of the initiatives that we have available. And that includes development and non-dev. So community docs, the documentation at docs.microsoft.com, using the samples that are available. We're starting new sessions on how to contribute to the samples, how to upgrade the samples, and then we're also going to be starting just some AMA. So if you're looking for additional, like I just have some questions that's not specifically around community docs or the samples, but I would just like to get some open-ended questions answered. We're going to start setting some of those up as well. So we look forward to you registering completely free of charge, aka.ms. Sharing is Caring, a full slate of October sessions available for you to register for. So please definitely take advantage of it. We'd love to see and help you.
Thank you, David, on that one. It's actually really awesome to see how do we scale the community together with MVPs and community, because to be fair, these bi-weekly calls were originally office hours and AMAs. And then it was all about questions and answers. And now we're kind of scaling because of the demand. And there's so many cool things to show these calls in a different usage. And then we have other questions and answer sessions. Anyway, thank you, David, for that one. And let's move to another one. We do have a quick announcement to make. And Bert, you can probably talk through this one. So there's a new preview version of the PnP Core SDK available.
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of just released like half an hour ago. I just made it for this call, but we have shipped preview 3 of a PnP Core SDK. Now, PnP Core SDK is our new .NET library, which eventually will replace PnP SideScore. And we have like a plan to have preview 3 now, which we achieved. And then beta releases in October with a plan to go GA by the end of the year, January timeframe. That's our goal. So go check it out. This one is really the first one where we want to make a bit more noise, which is more complete, which is more tested, which has like a full MSAL-based authentication concept being implemented there. So it's something that we are quite proud of, and we would like you guys to kind of try it out and give us feedback.
You should always explain that it's actually Microsoft Graph first. It is .NET Standard. It works in .NET 5 and all of that stuff. So it's.
I only get 1 minute from you, so I need to kind of.
I know, but don't miss the important pieces. So no, just kidding. Thank you, Bert, on that one. So moving on to the PnP CSAM core, and you kind of touched on some of the changes in here. Anything else just to call out?
Yeah, just to call out. So we now have 2 libraries, the PnP SideScore, the old one, let's say, and then PnP Core SDK, the new one. For the old one, we are actively working and we're really close to shipping it as a .NET Standard version, which uses CSAM for .NET Standard. So we've done a ton of changes and cleanup. And mainly Erwin and me did some work there, and Paulo and guys. So, but overall, really good state, and we should be able to ship next week, somewhere end of next week. Maybe the week after, but really soon this will be available. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. And then maybe about the usage. September statistics are again growing, like we crossed the 60,000 tenants using PnP SideScore, so it keeps on growing. So really amazed by that growth, actually.
Yeah, it's awesome to say that people are using this centralized libraries. And now let's move into the PnP PowerShell. Erwin, are you on a call?
Yes, I am.
Hey,
well, yeah, same story as Bert. Effectively, we've been working hard on getting the .NET Standard version out, and we're just as the PnP SideScore for .NET Standard. We're as ready there to release end of next week, maybe beginning of the week after. Lots of changes. A few breaking changes in PowerShell 7. We took away some obsolete things that have been obsolete for I don't know how long already, so you should have not be using them anymore, but they're now already gone. Some parameters on the commandlets made no more sense in a .NET Standard world or in a different auth world, because we use now MSAL behind the scenes to authenticate, which will make your life easier. We strongly believe that. And you might have, if you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen a tweet where I posted this little video, but we are able to run it in the Azure PowerShell also, which is kind of a cool thing. So, and it will be available for PowerShell 7, but also PowerShell 5, but as a preview.
Cool. Excellent. And then quick recap on the Yo teams. So Victor Villen could not actually make it today because he's on a customer call. Not a massive amount of improvements right now, but on the horizon, there's a multiple community PRs already merged. The 2.16 preview is coming really, really soon. And with that one, there will be, for example, new meeting extensibility tabs and other capabilities available. And there's a further investments for 3.0 version for this one. You would use Yo Teams if you don't want to use the Visual Studio Code extension, which is for JavaScript, and you would use Yo Teams when you're doing TypeScript or Node.js development. So that's one of the options for building extensibility for Microsoft Teams. But really cool movement there as well. And now on the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, we are really, really happy to actually have the Microsoft Graph Toolkit as our current guest in this course as well. So we have Beth in the call to talk about the latest in the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. There was great announcement, at least in the Ignite.
Oh, thank you, Vesa, and thanks for inviting me into this call as well. So we've made a couple changes to our 2.0 preview, and I would love for everybody to go check it out and let us know how you like it, and if there's any feedback, what can we do to make it better. You can see the list of new features. We also did a lot of improvements on the documentations, the brand new getting started guide. We've also integrated the toolkit into the Graph Explorer. Now you can directly check out, what the toolkit looked like inside of Graph Explorer for a couple different components that I already have. A lot of new contributors, or a couple of new contributors. To me, that's a lot because the project is still new. And we are looking for more contributors to our repo. If you want to join the contribution test, you can go to aka.ms/mgt and look at the contribution.md. We're sending out some cool Microsoft Graph swags if you have a PR merged with us. And later I will have a demo and hopefully including some of the preview features and show you guys what it's all about.
Excellent. Thank you, Beth. Really great to have you as a recurrent spot here as well. So just to call out the contributors and all of that stuff. So really great stuff. Thank you, Beth, for that. Now moving on the recurrent slides. So within the Microsoft Teams samples, right now we got from the past 2 weeks, we got one new sample, and there's multiple samples being worked on by the cloud advocates, including Bob German. But Jose and Norwich provided a new sample as a content explorer on the list libraries, list subsites, and all of that. So that's a pretty cool capability, which is shown in the GIF animation on the slide as well. In general, what we're planning to do here is create a full list of different Microsoft Teams extensibility samples, including Microsoft Teams app templates to a single kind of a gallery. Now, for now, it's a separate gallery, which is a Microsoft Teams sample gallery, but we're already working together with our adaptation team on building end-to-end Microsoft 365 sample gallery. So pretty soon you can go to one location and just filter down what you're looking for, and you will find the right samples for you. And that's really cool. I can't give you an exact ETA on that one yet because I don't want to promise a date yet, which we cannot necessarily give, but it's coming. It's being actively worked on. Now, it is actually optional picture time. So we don't want to miss to together mode things. It's been pretty successful. So let me do this and let me actually enable my video, flip to together mode, and I will push it on the screen. So you'll see who do we have here. You don't have to enable the video, but it's more on actually showing the different people who we have on the calls. We don't have exactly the same look and feel like in the NBA court, but pretty soon we can at least change the background, which is pretty cool. It's good to see the people in the call and more people enabling the video, and the SharePoint monkeys in this call as well. I can see that on the middle. Not a person, it's the monkey on the person's hand. Cool, just take it. Ooh, and I can see one more person on the back coming in, a few people coming in, gonna take a screenshots, and one more with everybody smiling and waving hands. Hey! Yay! Excellent. I will catch that one. I think that's all good. So that was a relatively fast one. And I think there is a limit of, is it 50 on that together mode for now. But thank you for that one. We'll post it out again in the social media. And that looked really nice. So really good. I will share that in the chat pretty soon. Cool. Moving on, we are hitting the demo section on time. This is amazing. So we are learning. So we'll start today with Beth as in getting started with Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Then we'll go to Pawan around the Microsoft Teams app template. So this is building access, really cool app template and really polished one. And then we'll close up today with Kislan. Every single demo spot is intended to be 15 minutes. So let's try to keep that time spot. But Beth, I think we're good to go on your screen.
Sounds good. So today I'm going to show you a little bit about what's Microsoft Graph Toolkit and some of the features that we have, a little peek on, the new features that we have, such as the new person card redesign, and we'll go from there. Here you see I just have an empty folder. I'm going to go into the simple sample just to get started from, a brand new HTML page and see how we would add the Graph Toolkit components into it. There's nothing in it. What I'm going to do is just create an index.html. And then I'll pull up my code editor. And let me also make this bigger. Going into the index.html, just gonna start with, a brand new default HTML template. And from here, how you could introduce the Microsoft Graph Toolkit component into it is attaching a script tag. where I'm assuming that I'm just showing a simple sample of using the vanilla HTML and JavaScript. So whenever that you needed to read about where to get resources for Microsoft Graph Toolkit, you can go to aka.ms/mgt docs. I already have one open right here, so I'm just going to go there directly. And under the Get Started tab in the overview, if I scroll down, you can find where our MGT script is that's ready for you to drop on your page. You can also import this directly in your JavaScript by using the Microsoft/MGT package in npm. And coming back to this file, I'm going to add it right after the body, and now it's added. After we already imported the MGT script, what we need to do to enable this page to connect it to the graph, you only need 2 lines of code. The first one, we're going to need a MGT MCell provider. And all you need for the provider is supplying a client ID. This client ID comes from your Azure AAD app registration. I don't think I have time to show that today, and I'm just going to assume a lot of people already know how to do that in this call. If you don't, feel free to reach out. I can point you to the right documentations or videos, or I can show you one-on-one. All of those are available. So since I'm not going to show that process, I'm just going to go ahead and grab a client ID right here and replace that with the client ID. And the other thing that after that I imported the MCell provider is I will add a logging component. And here shortly I'll show you what are all the components that's available and how you can explore it. Go live right here at the bottom right in Visual Studio Code. This is a plugin that kind of enables a live server for you to quickly see what's in your localhost. Starting that, coming back here, I'm going to go to localhost 5500, and when you are creating your Azure AAD app, all the redirections, this needs to be set up as the localhost 5500 and selecting the correct flows. Again, if you want to learn more about that, just let me know. And ta-da, here it is, a logging component already on your screen because my browser is signed in as a Megan. So this is signing in as a Megan, and there's some quick functionalities. When you click on it, you can see a little bit of detail and sign out of the account if you wish. So that is how quickly that we can start with the Microsoft Graph Toolkit in a HTML file. And I said that I was going to show you guys where to explore all these components. So if you go to mgt.dev, this is the playground that we built on top of something called Storybook. And it is a well-known community project that showcases, web components or other frameworks components, or help you test and build and isolate components along the ways as well. Here you got like a list of components that we have in prod, and we have a lot others coming for, maybe they're not planned for 2.0, but we have, we're constantly taking feedback from the community and Microsoft partners in order to know what are the things that people are interested in. So if you have an idea and wanted that to become a result of part of the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, please let the team know, and we can figure out whether that's something on our roadmap or if you can help us build it as a collaborative project. So another thing that I wanted to show you guys within the playground is on the right side here is a code editor that you can just immediately explore some of the functionalities in or for the components. For example, if I wanted to customize this person object, and some of the ways, or if I needed more information, is right here. There's the Canvas tab and the Docs tab. Scrolling down on the Docs tab, you can get a list of attributes that you can use within your HTML to tweak your components. And there's also a list of JavaScript properties that you can use to change the look and feel of this object. So I'm actually not going to go too deep into that, but a good place to try and look at how to use a more advanced way, I guess, of connecting to the graph when there's not a component that's bound to a specific API, is you can use the MGT get and supply a resource, giving it a graph version and the scope. It also supports paging, and then there's a lot of things that you can explore right here. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is I'm going to go to Graph Explorer, since I know this is already live. Starting now, we will have toolkit components right here in the Graph Explorer. I don't know if you guys know about this yet. For example, there's me. I think the photo one might also have it. Go to photo. There's a Graph Toolkit component. So you can see, the corresponding HTML and some of the JavaScript maybe there is, or CSS that relates to the components that you can use when you're exploring the Graph API directly from here. And this is also a new project for us in collaboration with the Graph Explorer team. If you want to know more, let me know, or if you have suggestions, let me know. And recently I've gotten some community feedback saying, like, every time you show us the Graph Toolkit, it always seems like it's super simple, but I'm kind of worried that it's not going to fit into my project because it goes into details about a lot of things. So I'm actually going to go into a little details today on customizing one of some of the components to show, how do you fit your own company design and adding these components and into a full-fledged kind of application. So what I'm going to do is, give me 1 second, let me just pull this over. I have a sample opened here. There is not a lot going on in this page. All I have, other than what I just showed you with the MSOP provider and login, it's all the fluff that I pre-set up so that I don't have to write CSS and JavaScript on spot. And this JavaScript file actually don't have a lot. It's just like a converting time from one format into the other. And I'm loading the MGT script directly from a preview version of our own repo so that you can see what's the newest thing that's coming. So if I do a yarn start, and it's running, looks good. I'm just going to close this one. And go to here, I'm going to find the sample folder. Those examples right there. So I'm actually going to show you just a little bit more of an example of what you can do with the Graph Toolkit. I'm introducing you to a scenario where almost all the companies or enterprise will run into, which is employee onboarding. And you can see on this page, this is just an image to make it look better. And there's a logging component that we just talked about that Megan is already signed in, some artwork, and then 3 columns with preset CSS. So what I want to do is, starting with, what if I wanted to customize how this language is looking like, and by saying, welcome to PAX, Megan, it's your first day, and I wanted to make it mention Megan's name. So what I can do is right here, I'm going to add a MGT person component where the person query equals me, which is whoever is going to sign into this application. And then a really cool thing that we have is we have a lot of templates within each components that we have. If you go to, again, documentation, you can find all the available templates and the data objects that's passed down for each template. By default, this template is going to give me a person object. And what I can do is wrap it up in a div using, we're kind of following some of the well-known syntax of using data or passing down data objects, double curly brackets. And in the person object, I wanted to show Megan's given name. And I'm just going to say, welcome to PAX, Megan. Maybe I'll add a little emoji and save that and come back here. Ta-da! Megan's name is already here. And another thing is coming down here, I'm just going to add some default MGT components to show you what it is or what they can do for your daily productivity. I'm going to adding MGT agenda. And then here we're going to use the MGT to-do components. Louise has been asking for this, I remember, on Twitter, to separate the APIs between MGT to-do and MGT tasks. We actually did that in the 2.0 preview. Now the to-do API connects directly to the graph to-do, or the MGT to-do component connects directly to the MGT or graph to-do API. It is so early, I'm slurring my words. I'm also going to add MGT people here. Here is going to connect to a list of people that you are, most worked with. So here you got a kind of a view of, Megan's first day. Here's everything that she needs to do. Here's all the checklists that she needed to worry about, checklist items. And then here's everybody that she may or may not want to reach out to, to talk about the new role. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into one of the components. And this is kind of coming from a community request, and it got tweaked later on for requirements. But I think it might be interesting because people are saying, like, what if when I'm showing a list of people, I actually want to show, want to put different kinds of data in it. So what we're going to do is add a template here. And there's a lot of logics that you can add right here in your HTML as well. For example, I could do a data for. The people template by default passed down the people object, and I wanted to loop through everybody in this object, so I can just say person in people. And I come down and say, give it another div. And I wanted to only show the like real people objects versus there's some system accounts that mixed together with this object. So in this one, I'm going to say if person actually has a user principal name, then I'm going to show it. But then coming down in the people object, what we're going to show is a list of MGT person. The reason that I'm actually specifying this is because I wanted to show some different property. Let's just start from here and see how it goes. So I'm going to say everybody in this component, I'm going to show them, I need to give it a person query, that's why. So in the person query, I'm going to say, for everybody in this people object, I want to show their user principal name, or I want to use their user principal name as going to the graph to fetch their data. Here it is. Here's like everybody's little bubble. The reason that it only shows a bubble because the person component by default the view only shows like no name or anything, only is a picture. So how do we further customize that is if you remember that I'm saying that there's a lot of attributes and JavaScript properties that you can tweak to change how your HTML's look and feel. If I go property, first line, property equals display name, and I'm going to say the line 2, property equals job title, and I also wanted to default back to mail address if this person doesn't have a job title. And when I'm setting up the view, I want it to have 2 lines of information, and you can also set it to be 1 line or default. And I also wanted to show a person card. Live typing is hard. There's hover and click, both options that you can use in order to enable a person card with MGT persons. Now that I come back here, this is actually a little, did I spell something wrong?
I think there's a typo in line 45. I think.
Okay. So,
it's date, not data.
Oh, sorry. There it is. Yeah, okay. Now it shows very nicely a list of people right here. I'm showing their name and their title versus their email address. And when I hover over this, or click it. I already forgot that I set to be clicked. This is the 2.0 person card, which kind of looks like the Outlook one that we have. And also, I think it's called Live Person Card in the SharePoint environment. You can see, more details about how to contact those people, send them a message directly from this card, showing off their organizational charts, showing the emails between you and this person or both of you participated in. If Miriam or whoever this is has more information on their LinkedIn information and they authorized us to show them, then you can see more of their personal data as well. So that's part of the 2.0 MGT person card redesign. And the reason that I wanted to show more of how to include MGT into all these more app is because a lot of people have been asking for, can you show us more of a complicated sample? So I'm just going to copy the rest of my code and paste it in here because I don't think I would have time to do all of it. But the sample is available in our repo if you want to go check it out. Right here, I can show a timeline view versus a email or just a calendar events view. I could show only the important data of to-do list that I wanted to talk about and so far and so forth. And that's that. I also wanted to point out 2 resources for people who wanted to use more or who wanted to build applications with MGT and enable it in your Teams tab or SharePoint environment. We have a list of providers that's out there that will enable you to add your application and then doing the authentication in the background for you. And today we've shown you the MSAL version, and there's a lot of others. And for the Teams one, there was a developer live show that me, Nicole, and Jeremy did during build. And this is kind of going to a depth of how to build a Teams application with MGT enabled. And we're going to show you how to add a bot to it to help you manage some of the informations in that app. We also talked about MGT React, which is a React wrapper. If you wanted to use MGT within a React environment, that handles a lot of the plumbing for you out of the box. So this is a good resource for people who wanted to do Teams tab and React application. Here's another one that 2 of our awesome community members who helped me so much for the project as well, David and Hugo, had this presentation. I know they've been doing this a lot in different conferences to enable MGT components in your SharePoint environment. So this is an awesome resource for people who wanted to do it within SharePoint. If you want to go check it out, I can also share this. I think they did this during the PnP call as well.
Just to summarize, Beth, really great stuff. And it's awesome to see with simple tags with the Graph Toolkit, you can actually build complex solutions. It's just mind-blowing how much stuff is being abstracted for with these controls. It's really, really cool. So awesome stuff. Thank you, Beth. Now, for the links, you can put them on the chat. I think there was a request for putting that. But let's jump on Pawan. I think, Pawan, you are also ready to go.
Yes, I am. Good morning,
Excellent.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me go ahead and quickly share my screen. So there's not going to be any hands-on coding in this session, but hopefully this would be as much fun. Okay, so I'm going to start with a couple of screens. The first one is really just to set the context around what we are about to see. And what we are about to see is essentially an open source Teams app template. If you've not used one, the link at the bottom will take you to the page that lists all of those app templates that have been built out by the Teams engineering group and rolled out as open source, available on GitHub. The intent here is for us to showcase best practices, kind of the power of what's possible. These app templates use different tooling behind the scenes. Some are Azure bots, there is custom LOB apps, there is app templates using PowerApps, Power Automate. The one I'm actually about to show you is built on PowerApps and Power Automate. It's essentially a Power Platform-based app template for Teams. But obviously, GitHub means open source. Take it, make it your own, customize it, personalize it. Feel free to use it for your organization or your teams as you see fit. We're about to look at building access template. And for those of you, and again, in current scenario, I think everyone's gotten impacted. Everyone's working remotely, in some sense, has gotten affected from a working standpoint. There's a lot of organizations that were planning to bring employees back into those office locations, and were looking for a tool to help them safely bring them back. If for those of you who keep track of some of the app templates we roll out, one of the early ones we rolled out to support COVID-19 crisis was the crisis communications app back in March. And that was really more about more informational, employees being able to update their status, letting their teams know where they were, companies to send down information down to the employees on kind of the policies, updates on building access, and so on. What morphed from there was, hey, that is all great, but now as we are bringing people back into locations, how do we do that safely? How do we control who's going to be at the building at any point in time? What should be the occupancy threshold? Like if my building used to accommodate 1,000 people before this crisis hit, and now I don't want more than 500 people, how do I control that? How should I, as my facilities teams restructure the layouts, how do I control who's going to be on floor 1 versus floor 10? What times do they come into the buildings? How do I manage those approvals? So this application was directly born from some of the feedback we were getting from our customers around how do we bring them safely back. You've given us an app to provide information to them, but we need a little bit more. So think of this as perhaps V2 of that. Let me switch over to the last slide, and then I'll get into the actual demo. The app itself is built around multiple personas. And when I say that, you'll see when I get into the demo, there are actually 3 different apps. So it's not one Power App in Teams. It's a suite of 3 different apps. The first one, which is the building admin app, which is geared towards your executives, your facilities managers. That's the place where you can go configure a specific building or a facility. And what you're doing is, hey, this building is now online, meaning available for employees to access. You can define which spaces, what floor, how many seats, how many spaces are available for people to reserve. Will that building be, what we call in the tool, we call it unmonitored and monitored. Essentially, that means, is that a restricted access building or an unrestricted access building? And again, I'll get into the demo, but the idea is, do I check in myself when I get to the site? Do I check in voluntarily, or will someone in the lobby check to see if I have the right approvals to be on site on that day at that building and check me in from their system? So that's kind of one of the things we'll look at. The 2 personas in the middle more or less overlap. Essentially, your employee, your end user making that request. I'm going to go ahead and keep that aside for the time being. We'll actually do that in the demo. And the last piece, which is the third app, which is our building security app. And that's the essential, remember the monitored versus unmonitored comment from earlier. That's where your building security, your building lobby managers, your security officers, they bring up this companion app, validate you are who you say you are, you have the right approvals, scan the QR code that is given to you when you request a reservation, and then let you in. So that's kind of setting the stage for what the app actually does. But let's go ahead and take a look at behind the scenes on the app. I will put all these links in the chat window here for everyone. And actually, we're going to be publishing more information about it. It is on GitHub. This is hot off the press. What's on the GitHub? So obviously the source code goes up there. There is a detailed deployment guide. So if I were to bring this up, you'll find this detailed deployment guide, step-by-step screenshots. Most organizations I worked with deploy this app template within 45 minutes. And that's really just making sure I have the right URL to plug into the admin screen. I have the right team. If I need to create a team, I go create my team, grab that URL, and I'll walk through where that goes. There is also a detailed getting started guide. Hey, I deployed everything. Now what do I do? Where do I go to define my first building? What are some of the settings that are available? So again, all of those are available to you. So everything I show you today, if it feels like I'm going at a rapid pace, which I am, it feels like I think I have probably 10 minutes overall to do, but a lot of information is here, and I'm happy to stay on and answer additional questions. Behind the scenes look, and again, you'll see multiple versions of this, so please ignore that. But the idea is you will have 3 apps showing up in your PowerApps when you look at it. You've got the building admin app. That's for the admins, the executives, to define your buildings. The building security app, that's the companion app for the security folks to scan your QR code and let you in. And this is the main app, which is used by the end user. The way I recommend customers use this is for the building security app. And again, you'll see I have 3 different teams in here. The building security app could easily be pinned. If you've got different building security teams, you can pin them in the channel here, or you can target it for that specific set of users and pin it on the left app bar. The building admin app, same thing. For my demo, I'm going to be going ahead and demoing it from the channel itself. But where I want to start the demo right now is actually the app that I pinned on the left app bar, and ignore the V6 next to it. That's just the internal variations that are happening right now. Let's go ahead and let me go ahead and full screen. So the way that works is when I as a user log in, so this is the end user view. When I as a user log in, I have a few things I can do in the system. I can quickly see what my existing requests are, and I'll show you quickly where that what goes. I can make a new request for building access. We'll go through that process as well. And again, this is where the organization can publish additional guidelines, building opening schedules, safety precautions, PPE needs, anything and everything. And again, everything you see here is actually a label you can configure. There is an Excel file that contains all of the strings, all of the labels. It's really easy for you to go ahead and swap them out. And if you wanted to call it corporate news or latest news or anything else, or didn't want it at all, we've given you a simple slide or a yes, no flag in the admin tool to go turn it off, and then that would go away. Let's go through the process of doing one. I think that's the best way for me to show you what works here. The first step that happens in creating a new request is it asks me a bunch of questions. This is what we call the key eligibility questions. Think of this as the gate to the actual request. These questions are configured by you in the admin tool. You can define as many or as few as you want. And if you didn't want them, you have the same slider capability, just turn them off so you didn't want. So I had at least one customer who said, no, I just want them to reserve. I'm not going to get into kind of asking any questions. There was another customer that came and said, I may not ask health related questions, but I'm going to ask them, are you going to take public transportation into office today? Because I deem that a little bit more risky and I may not allow that today. And so gave you full capability to customize all of these in the admin tool. And we'll quickly take a peek at it depending on how much time we have. Now, obviously, if I say, do you have any symptoms? The system's going to tell me, sorry, you're not eligible to be on site. So for the demo today, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving and say no to all of those. This is where it shows me kind of my recent building selections. But what I want to do is I want to actually go to San Francisco. I'm from San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the one in California Street. Let me just see that this is an executive meeting. That's why I need to be there. For every building you configure, you can define the eligibility criteria as a message that you can put up here. So you're telling the users, hey, if you want to work out of this building, that's the criteria. I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward. In this case, what I've done is obviously defaulted to the current date. I can say all day, or I can say, well, maybe I only want to go there for the morning one. And again, these are labels. We could have said morning 9 to 12, afternoon 2 to 4, evening. Again, you get the idea. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say all day. And now this is where the fun part begins. What I've done in the building access or building admin section is I've defined 2 floors. And for each floor, I've defined a certain set of spaces. So when I pick this and I click on check availability, it checks to see if the floor is, if there is available capacity on that floor. And if it is, it tells me, yes, I can go ahead and reserve that. If there was none, it would basically tell me, hey, you don't have any availability. Actually, it won't even show up in the floor. I take that back. So let's go ahead and hit save and next. Now, in this case, this is the demo fund. I am logged in as, as every demo environment is. You can see the credentials here. The mod administrator, haven't set up a direct manager for myself in this demo. So it tells me, hey, I can't find the approver. I'm just going to send it to the admin team channel. And this is interesting. I think one of the things that happened was there were some customers that came back and said, oh, well, that person doesn't have a direct manager right now in the system, or we haven't set up everything in AD that works that way. So you can actually set it up, and again, I'll show you given time, but in the building admin app, you can say for this building, the default approval is this person. Very important from a retail scenario when you're in a store and your store employees may not directly report to the store manager, then you can pick the store manager or the assistant store manager as the approver for that facility. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and let it go to the team channel, but I could pick a different approver and actually send it to somebody else. Again, this is the functionality if you don't want people picking your approvers, there is a lot of configuration aspect to this app, which I would love to get into on a follow. So let's go ahead and click that. And in this case, it's going to go through the process, tells me I've created the request. Let's go back here, tells me, hey, these are my requests. Now, remember that second option here, my request, that's where that's taking me. And now it's telling me, hey, floor 1, San Francisco 545. Hey, it tells me it's already approved. And when I click on it, it tells me it's auto approved. And so that's another configuration you have in the system. You define which buildings will allow system auto approval based on available occupancy thresholds that you've set. And so if your occupancy threshold was 50%, you basically are saying, hey, my system will allow auto approvals up to 50%, and then anything else will be manager approved. Or you can just bring down the building configuration and change it from 1,000 people if it was the original setup to 500 people. Now, this is my view. Right? Again, remember when I come in the morning, or actually in this case, this would be on my mobile phone. Remember, pinned apps show up on your mobile devices as well. So I walk into the building, I bring up my app. It shows me that I have a reservation here, and I can go ahead and click check in and get my work done. Now, what we've done, now this is what I'm showing you today is V2 or version 2 of the building access app. The original V1 was rolled out in June timeframe. We've got several customers that have already rolled it out successfully, have customized it, personalized it, and have been using it for several months now. But there were some capabilities that were requested that we've added. The ability to select a range of dates, ability to do multiple time slots in a day, the ability to do a second check-in or a second eligibility questions verification when you check in. So previously, I could make a reservation for up to X days in advance and walk into the building and check in. But a lot of customers said, hey, but what about the day off? I want them to validate that everything they said at the time of reservation still holds true. So now we have to make the same selections, I should say the appropriate selection. And actually, because I said, yes, I am sick, it tells me, sorry, you can't be here. And now what it will do is if I go back here, it's going to tell me, hey, your request has been disqualified. Let's actually take a step back from here. What I want to do is show you, and in this case, I'm actually just flipping over to my second tab here to show you what the building admin screen looks like. And I think that's pretty much all the time we'll have today to look at building admin. So is where you would go and define your building. So you saw me pick SF 555 California. And there are a few more buildings in here, but if I nail down, this is the one that I was looking at. You'll see the unmonitored and the monitored labels here. Again, go back to restricted and unrestricted access. It does tell me how many floors or how many areas have been defined and how many seats are available. So that's quickly visible here. But we can take a peek under the covers as well. So obviously I can do address and all. Again, why is this important? One, obviously you can display that on the screen for the user, but more importantly, there is a Power BI dashboard that comes as part of the solution as well. And these are then used to plot your users. You can say, hey, in this region, X number of users are expected to be on site, are on site. So there is a lot of reporting that happens behind the scenes, which I won't have time to show today. This is where you make the selection between restricted or unrestricted access. The auto approval threshold is interesting. And if you use this as a combination with, I'll show you the screen first. Use this in combination with the floors and the seating you've set up. You've got various ways to control your occupancy threshold. So first off, you can come in here and define, hey, floor 1, floor 2. Again, in Microsoft, we have these open spaces, zones. I could call this, and again, this is just a label. So I could come in here and change this to my open space area or zone 1. All right, it doesn't have to be floor 1. You can define it any way you want. Now, once I've done with that, basically the idea was, hey, if this zone pre-COVID supported 150, I can come in and say, hey, there are only 75 spaces based on how facilities have restructured this. Or I could actually go back in here and I say, maybe I'll leave that at 150, but I'll set my occupancy approval threshold to 50%, meaning the first 50% of the seats can be auto-approved, system approved based on the occupancy levels. And then maybe I have manager discretion on whether I want to allow people. You decide how you want to do this. You can set this up all the way up to 100%, or you can say no more auto approvals. We're going to go to the manager one. So you define how you want to work with that. A few other things in the building admin, and I think we are pretty much done from a demo perspective. The safety precautions, this is where you define all the news. The policies, additional information, your eligibility questions. You saw some of those show up. There are a few in the draft state. So you can actually start creating some, publish the ones, or take them off if you don't need them anymore. And then this is really where the bulk of the stuff happens. You define how many days in advance the reservations can be made. You define where those messages are going, right? We looked at the approval messages coming in. You define what those error messages are going to be. And all those features, the safety precautions, the news, you don't want it, let's turn that off. The key eligibility questions, no, I just want them to reserve, let's turn them off. And oh, by the way, I really don't want people picking up approvers. That doesn't really work for our organization. All right, let's go ahead and turn them off. And now if I reload my app back to the building access screen, all those will be gone. I'm going to take a pause here. I think I've shown you quite a bit. If there are any questions, happy to take, happy to respond to them in the chat window as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Pawan. Really great stuff. And this is an awesome example of the power of those Microsoft Teams app templates. They are ready to go in production usage, and they really demonstrate the best practices. So really, really polished stuff. And also, I like the fact that it's demonstrating the Power Platform capabilities in Microsoft Teams, because that is super, super powerful platform as well. So really, really great stuff. Absolutely. Now, I think there was a few questions in the chat. I'm also watching the time because it's 56. I'm going to actually move into the closing slides, and we can keep the chat on going a few minutes later on the call as well. Well, the chat does go on after this one, but thank you, Pawan. Really great stuff. Awesome stuff. Now let's continue on the just closing of the call. So we did agree with Kislan that we rescheduled that demo already on 29th of October. So we do apologize if anybody actually joined the call to watch that demo. So that's going to be now rescheduled for 4 weeks, not 4 months, 4 weeks forward. But we'll get it absolutely covered. And sorry, Kislan, for that one. And now for the Q&A, we'll continue doing that in a chat. chat if there's any active questions. Please ask those from Pawan as well. The recording of the session will be available in 24 hours in the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel, AKMS M365 PnP videos, and please follow up on Microsoft 365 Dev and M365 PnP. Easiest way to kind of catch up on Twitter what's actually happening. The next M365 General Dev Call is on October 15th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And then the next SharePoint Framework Call, which is the other one which of these bi-weekly cycles, is on October 8th. If you are, by the way, targeting always on Microsoft Teams, just a reminder, SharePoint Framework solutions do work actually in Microsoft Teams. And all of the SharePoint Framework capabilities do count as a Microsoft Teams platform extensibility. So small reminder for those who are looking into getting more usage on the Microsoft Teams side as well. Now, if you're looking into any of the other calls, go to AKMS M365 Dev calls. There's a massive amount of calls available. Always choose the ones which you want to go based on agenda, based on your interest. Everything is recorded, so you can actually watch the calls also afterwards as well. And I know that there's an ongoing discussions on should we reduce the number of calls. Last time when we did that review with the community, answer was no, don't reduce the number of calls. Let the community decide what the calls are important. But hey, we'll see how it goes in the future. But that's all we're gonna do today, and we are magically like one time in a year, 2 minutes before hitting the hour, always ending the call in here. But thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Pawan. Thank you, everybody participating actively on the chat. I think that's one of the key values. And please keep the feedback coming. Let us know what you need, what kind of guidance is needed, what kind of videos, samples, documentation, because we are here to help you to be successful within your work. But thank you, everybody. We'll close up for the day and have a great rest of Thursday and upcoming weekend. Bye-bye.